Mom asked, "Do you hate us now?" And I said, "No, I just finally like myself more than your comfort." Her face did this strange thing, like the words had physically hit her. A quick twitch around her eyes and mouth before she smoothed it over with that wounded look I know too well. Her hands, still wrapped around the mug of peppermint tea I'd made her, tightened so hard the ceramic squeaked against the table. I could hear the faint ticking of the cheap wall clock over the fridge and the hum of my old fridge trying way too hard in the background. My heart was hammering, but my voice had come out weirdly steady, like it belonged to someone braver than me. It was a Wednesday night, both of us crammed into my tiny kitchen like we were playing at being in one of those TV dramas where estranged mothers visit their daughters. Except in those shows, there's often soft music and some neat resolution by the end. In my apartment, there was a sink full of dishes, a pile of laundry on a chair behind Mom's shoulder, and the faint smell of garlic from the dinner I'd barely managed to choke down before she arrived. We hadn't been truly alone like this in months. The last time I'd seen her was at my cousin's birthday, and even then we'd only exchanged stiff small talk about the weather and my job. Now here she was, in my space, clutching a tea she hadn't drunk, asking if I hated her. "I don't understand how you can say that," she said finally, her voice thin. Like we're some villains in your story." There it was. The word. Story. Like I'd made up a plot twist just to keep things interesting. "I didn't call you villains," I said, tracing the chipped edge of my own mug with my thumb. "I said I like myself more than I like keeping you comfortable. That's not the same as hate." She let out this half laugh, half scoff. "You never talked like this before you started that therapy," she said, as if the word itself had a bad taste. "You were such a sweet girl, always thinking of others. And now," she gestured at me with her free hand, fingers shaky, "now you talk to me like I'm some stranger you need boundaries from." She put sarcastic air quotes around boundaries. I watched the way her hands shook, the way her jaw clenched so tightly I could hear her teeth almost grind. That old reflex rose in me immediately. Reach across, reassure her, say I didn't mean it like that, make a joke, change the subject, take care of her feelings first. Then, just as quickly, the other voice spoke up in the back of my mind. The one I'd been trying to grow like a weak muscle. "You promised yourself you wouldn't abandon yourself this time. Stay with you." I took a slow breath. "I'm not trying to hurt you," I said. "I'm trying not to keep hurting myself." She looked at me like I'd switched languages. The question, "Do you hate us now?" didn't come out of nowhere. It started with a missed Christmas, then a missed Easter, then a birthday text from my dad that said, "You've made your point," instead of "Happy birthday." It started with my therapist asking, "What would it look like if you stopped automatically saying yes to everything they ask?" And me laughing because that seemed impossible, like asking what I'd do if gravity stopped working. Growing up, yes was my job. I'm the eldest of 3. My brother, Michael, is 2 years younger, my sister, Lily, is 5 years younger. If our family were a play, Dad was the main character, Mom was the supporting actress, and the rest of us were props that occasionally had lines. It wasn't cartoonishly evil or anything. No dark basements or locked cupboards. From the outside, we looked normal enough. Dad worked long hours. Mom stayed home until we were older. We had family holidays in cheap motels where the beds creaked and the pool always smelled a bit off. But inside, the rules were very clear. Dad's mood set the tone for the house. Mom's mood was tied to Dad's. And all of us children orbited whatever they were feeling. If Dad came home and slammed the car door, you could feel the tension before he even walked in. The front door would open just a little too fast. His footsteps would be a fraction too heavy in the hall. Mom would already be moving, wiping already clean counters, pulling her shoulders up. "Kids, pick up your things," she'd hiss. Even if there was nothing on the floor. "Don't start," she'd say to us, as if we were the trigger. When I was 9, I set the table wrong. I remember it with stupid clarity. Forks on the right instead of the left, napkins forgotten. Dad looked at it and said, "Do you have rocks in your head?" Then laughed like it was a joke. Mom joined in. "Come on, use your brain," she added, ruffling my hair. It was meant to be light. I know that now, but I still remember the hot shame in my cheeks, the way my hands trembled as I moved the cutlery. Later that night, lying in bed, I went over every step in my head like revising for a test. Plate, fork, knife, napkin, cups. Do it right next time. Don't give him a reason. That became the pattern. Head off the reasons. Anticipate. Smooth. When I was 10, I learned to whisper, "It's okay, Mom," while she sat on the edge of my bed crying about how hard Dad was to live with. When I was 12, I learned how to take Lily and Michael into my room and put a movie on loud when Dad started shouting downstairs. When I was 14, I knew my job was to tell Dad carefully, when he'd gone too far without making him feel like I was taking her side. "You're my little diplomat," he'd say, ruffling my hair. "The only one who talks sense." Translation: the only one willing to twist herself into a pretzel so he didn't have to look in a mirror. I didn't call it that at the time, obviously. At the time, I was proud. I thought being needed like that meant I was important. Kids will work very, very hard not to see their parents as the problem. By the time I left for university at 19, I was bone tired and had no idea why. I thought it was just the stress of exams, the long train ride back and forth between campus and home on weekends because Mom would send texts like, "I miss you so much. Things are really bad here. I don't know how much longer I can do this." So I'd go home. I'd sit at the kitchen table while Mom poured out every grievance she had with Dad. I'd sit in the driveway with Dad while he smoked, him telling me how ungrateful Mom was, how weak, how she cried over nothing. I'd separate them like a referee, then go back to my dorm on Sunday nights feeling like I'd been wrung out and hung up to dry. I'd always thought that was normal. Family drama, right? Everyone has their stuff. The first time a friend said, "That sounds like emotional abuse," I literally laughed. "No," I said. "My parents love me. They're just intense." Then they said, gently, "You know love and abuse can coexist, right?" I didn't want to. The crack really started when I hit 27 and had my first real panic attack at work. It wasn't even about my parents. I'd made a small mistake in an email, nothing serious, and my manager replied in all caps, "Please fix this ASAP," because she was stressed. I saw the caps and my entire body went into meltdown. Heart pounding, vision blurring, throat tight. I had to sit in the disabled bathroom for 15 minutes breathing into my hands, and all I could think, over and over, was, "He's going to yell. He's going to yell. You're so stupid. How could you mess up?" Except he wasn't even there. That's when I finally dragged myself to therapy. I spent the first 3 sessions telling my therapist how great my parents were. "My dad worked so hard," I said. "My mom sacrificed everything for us." I dropped those words. Sacrificed, hard, perfect, like punctuation. Whenever I accidentally mentioned something that sounded off, like Dad giving me the silent treatment for days after I disagreed with him, I'd rush to add, "But it wasn't that bad. I mean, they never hit us or anything." My therapist would tilt her head and say things like, "Can we go back to that moment? And how did that feel for you? And what does not that bad mean to you?" I hated her a little at first. It felt like she was pulling at a loose thread I'd been carefully tucking away for years. But she also did something nobody had done before. She stayed on my side, in my perspective, without immediately rushing to defend my parents. She didn't call them monsters. She didn't tell me to cut them off. She just kept saying, "You were a kid. It makes sense you felt scared/hurt/overwhelmed." It was disorienting. Like realizing the house you grew up in has always been tilted and you've been walking at an angle your whole life. I didn't go no contact suddenly. It started with little things. Saying, "I can't talk right now," when Mom called in the middle of a workday and launched straight into a monologue about Dad. Not responding immediately to every guilt text. Leaving family gatherings a little earlier than usual instead of staying until the last dish was washed. Then came the call. Last year, 2 weeks before Christmas, Dad phoned me. "No hello, no how are you? Just, your mother's upset. What did you say to her?" I'd had a long day. I was standing in my kitchen, one shoe still on, staring at the plate of leftovers in my hand. "Hi, Dad," I said. What's going on? She's been crying for the past hour, he snapped. Says you don't want to come for Christmas. After everything we've done for you, you can't give us one day. I took a breath. I'd rehearsed this in therapy. I'd even written notes in my journal. I'm not coming home for Christmas this year. I need a break from the arguments. I love you, but I need to prioritize my mental health. Dad, I said, my voice shaking, I already told Mom. I'm not coming this year. I need some space. The last couple of holidays have been really stressful for me and… You need space? He interrupted, like I told him I needed heroin. From your family? From the yelling, I said. From the fighting. I always end up stuck in the middle. It makes me feel like I'm 16 again, and I can't do that anymore. Not at Christmas. There was a silence so complete I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, in this cold, flat voice I'd only heard a few times before, so you hate us now, is that it? My stomach dropped. That word again. Hate. Felt too big, too black and white, too much like a trap. I don't hate you, I said, swallowing. Your mother is devastated. He cut in. Absolutely devastated. She raised you. She did everything for you. You're all she talks about. And now you say you need space. He spat the word. You are selfish, you know that? The rest of that conversation is a blur of accusations and guilt. By the end of it, I was on the floor in my kitchen, back against the cupboards, phone pressed to my ear, tears running down my face while Dad told me I'd broken your mother's heart just in time for Christmas. I still didn't go. I spent Christmas Day watching movies with a friend and her dog, alternately relaxed and racked with guilt. Mom texted me once, Merry Christmas. Love you always. No emojis, which somehow made it worse. After that, things shifted. Fewer calls, shorter messages, more passive-aggressive comments from my brother about how some people think they're better than family now. And then, 2 weeks ago, Mom texted, Can I come over? Just me. I'd like to talk. I almost said no. My therapist asked, What does your gut say? My gut said danger, but it also said you're tired of everything being a Cold War. So I said yes on the condition that it was just her, not Dad, and that she come early enough that I had an easy excuse to end it if I needed to. She arrived with a container of lasagna, I know you forget to eat, and a face that looked both older and exactly the same. We made small talk first. Work, the weather, my cousin's baby, the usual script. She looked around my apartment and said, It's nice, in this surprised tone, like she expected me to be living in a cardboard box. Then she went very quiet, cradling the mug of tea. We don't understand you anymore, she said finally. Me and your father. We talk about it all the time. It's like you've gone away even when you're in the room. I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to say, good, that was the goal. Another part wanted to say, I've been gone for a long time, you just didn't notice until I stopped doing your emotional labor. Instead, I said, I've been trying to take care of myself. She nodded quickly, as if I'd confirmed a suspicion. Right? Self-care, therapy, all that. She forced a laugh. And in the process, you've thrown us away. That's not what I've done, I said. She looked at me then, really looked, and I could see her eyes glass over. Do you hate us now? She whispered. Is that what this is? You hate us? Her voice cracked on hate, and something inside me flinched. Not because she'd caught me out, but because I realized how small her world was. Either I worship them unquestioningly or I hate them. No other option. And that's when I heard myself say, calmly, as if I'd practiced it 100 times, No, I just finally like myself more than your comfort. Now, in the kitchen, she shook her head slowly, like I'd told her gravity was optional. So my comfort means nothing to you? She said, tears spilling over. I swallowed. It means something, I said. It just doesn't mean everything anymore. It used to. I used to break myself to keep you from being upset. I can't do that and survive at the same time. You're being dramatic, she snapped. Too fast. the old defensiveness kicking in. Survive. Honestly, we gave you everything. A home, school, food. There are children who are abused, really abused. And you sit here talking about surviving like we were monsters. I've never called you monsters, I said, my own voice beginning to fray. But when you tell me there are people who had it worse, it just makes me feel like my pain doesn't count. That's part of why I had to step back. She set her mug down with a little clink that made both of us jump. We did our best, she said. I don't know what more you want from us. We didn't hit you. We stayed together. We were always there. Yes, I said, more softly than I felt. You were always there, fighting, yelling, crying on my bed about how you couldn't take it anymore, making me choose sides, telling me I was selfish if I needed anything that didn't fit into whatever crisis was happening. You were always there, Mom. That's the problem. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked genuinely shocked, like this was new information, like she wasn't in the room for any of it. I could see her pulling on the script she knows. We're not perfect, she said. We made mistakes, sure, but that's what being a parent is. You just do your best. You think I had it easy with your father? You think my childhood was some picnic? I know it wasn't, I said. I've heard every story. I know your dad was worse. I know your mom ignored you. I know you think because you did slightly better you get a gold star. But I'm the one who lives in this body. I'm the one having panic attacks at work when someone raises their voice. I'm the one who flinches when a text from you comes in after 10 p.m. because it usually means something's wrong. I'm the one paying a stranger to teach me that my feelings aren't a burden. You did your best, maybe, but your best still hurt me. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. So what, you never did anything wrong? She said. You were the perfect child? You never raised your voice? You never made things worse. I absolutely did, I said. I slammed doors. I snapped at you. I guilt-tripped. I played the peacemaker and then resented everyone for needing me. I'm not saying I was perfect. I'm saying I'm willing to look at my part and try to change it. Are you? She went quiet then. The kitchen seemed very small. I could hear the neighbor's TV through the thin wall. Some game show audience applauding someone's lucky guess. It felt absurd that somewhere in the building someone was winning $500 for answering a question while I sat here trying to convince my own mother that my pain was real. I'm too old to start again, she said finally. I can't go to some stranger and talk about everything. I'd fall apart. You already fall apart, I said gently. You just do it on your children. The words came out softer than they sounded in my head, but she recoiled like I'd shouted them. Tears spilled over now, for real, not the controlled, I'm hurt, tears but big, messy ones. You are so cruel, she whispered. Therapy has made you cruel. That hurt because that's exactly what Dad says. Because a part of me still believes it every time I say no and someone's face falls. I'm not trying to be cruel, I said. I'm trying to be honest. For once, I've spent 30 years organizing my life around not making you upset, around keeping Dad calm, around making sure everyone else felt okay, even if I was falling apart. Liking myself more than your comfort doesn't mean I want you to suffer. It means if it's between my mental health and your feelings, I'm choosing me now. It's new. Probably feels like hate from where you're sitting, but it isn't. She wiped her face angrily. I can't believe you think so little of us, she said. That you'd talk about us like some project. Problem to fix. I've thought nothing but how to protect you for most of my life, I said, and my own voice finally broke. That's the point. I've thought more about your feelings than my own since I was old enough to reach the sink. I'm tired, Mom. Her shoulders sagged. For a second, I saw it, the tiniest crack in her armor. She looked scared, not angry. So what does this mean? She asked quietly. Do we not see you anymore? Do you not come home? Do I not call you? I stared at the tabletop, at the ring her mug had left. My brain did its usual panic dance. If you say what you need, she'll collapse, you'll have to fix it. Better to just say it's fine. I took a breath. It means, I said slowly, that I'm going to keep some limits. I'm not coming over every weekend. I'm not going to be the one you call at midnight when you and Dad have a blow-up. If you start yelling or blaming me for your feelings, I'm going to hang up or leave. I'll see you. I'll answer your calls sometimes. I still care about you, but I'm not the family therapist anymore. I'm not the sponge. She blinked. Sponge. I can't just soak everything up and wring myself out alone later, I said. That's what I've been doing. It's killing me. She looked down at her hands, picked at a hangnail. Your father will never understand this, she said. I know, I said, but I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to you. Silence settled again. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't some magical healing quiet. It was just the sound of two people sitting with something neither of them really wanted to look at. After a while, she stood up abruptly. I should go, she said. It's getting late. It's only 8, I said automatically, then bit my tongue. But yeah, okay. At the door, she hesitated. I don't know how to do this, she said, not quite looking at me. This, whatever this is. You've always been the one who knew what to say. It was the closest thing to an admission of dependence I'd ever heard from her. I don't know either, I said. I'm figuring it out. Maybe we can figure it out separately. For a while. She flinched like I'd suggested exile. Right? She said. Separately. She picked up her bag, slung it over her shoulder. Well, thank you for the tea. Thanks for the lasagna, I replied. She opened the door, stepped into the hallway, then turned back. Her eyes were still shiny, but her voice was steadier. For what it's worth, she said. I never wanted you to feel like this. I know, I said. That's part of what makes it so confusing. She nodded once, a tiny motion, and left. When the door clicked shut, my legs gave out. I slid down it, sitting on the floor, head in my hands, and let myself sob. Not because she'd been terrible, not because I regretted what I said, but because choosing myself over her comfort feels, in my body, like betrayal every time. Because a small, stubborn part of me still wishes she'd said, I'm sorry, I'll try. After a while, I pulled myself up, washed the mugs, covered the lasagna, and put it in the fridge. I texted my therapist. She came over. I didn't collapse. I feel like I've been hit by a truck. Then I opened Reddit, because where else do you go when your head is a mess and you don't want your friends to say, but they're your parents? So here I am, typing this out to strangers. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if I'm being selfish or finally, appropriately self-interested. I don't know if my relationship with my parents will improve or quietly crumble. What I do know is this: I don't hate them. I don't wake up wishing them dead or scheming revenge. I grieve the childhood I didn't get. I'm angry at the version of them that chose their own comfort, their denial, their scripts overseeing what their kid was going through. And for the first time in my life, I'm trying to put my own oxygen mask on before I suffocate helping them with theirs. Mom asked, do you hate us now? No, I don't. I hate what was done and then minimized. I hate the gaslighting, the guilt, the way we did our best is used like a get-out-of-jail-free card. I don't hate them. I'm just learning to like myself more than their comfort. And as small as that sentence sounds on paper, inside my body it feels like moving a mountain an inch.